I'm Bob Dock, Executive Director of the Marriage Resource Center of Frederick County, Maryland. We're part of a national movement to strengthen marriage and reduce the divorce rate throughout our country. To do this, we highlight three areas. One is the premarital mentoring process. The second is enrichment of existing marriages. And the third is the restoration of marriages in crisis. Today we're going to highlight the premarital area and tell you about premarital mentoring. It's been proven successful to reduce the divorce rate and also to make marriages actually better off throughout the life of the marriage itself. Imagine if the effect on society if every couple engaged in such a process before they were married. We have two couples with us today. One is an actual mentor couple that did the premarital preparation of the second couple that's here with us today. So we'll see both sides of what is being done, the mentor's point of view, and also those of a couple that was just recently mentored. I'd like to welcome today a couple that's been mentoring here in Frederick County for the last 5 years. I think they're doing a great job, and I want to just ask them some questions about their mentoring experience. And we're going to start with Phil here. Phil, why do you take your time to do this mentoring?
Well, because, Bob, when we were married, there was no premarital counseling. There was very little counseling at all, except maybe after the fact in divorce. And even though we dated for a year and were engaged for another 18 months after that, we were separated. I joined the service and Barbara was finishing up her schooling. So we didn't have a lot of close contact with each other. In those days, you wrote letters and maybe you had a very rare occasional long-distance call between each other, and maybe you could see each other on holidays. So when we went into marriage, rather blind regarding each other, and the issues that we had never discussed, stuff that we brought in from our families, and it just was a surprise to us.
I like the word blind. That says a lot about what I think happens in a lot of situations. Yeah. They think they know each other, but the blind also appears to that maybe they're blinded by the love, right?
Yeah.
And they don't get down and talk about the nitty-gritty issues that really need to be discussed before marriage.
Exactly.
Okay. Barb, do you find that this mentoring process helps your marriage?
Yes, because we're still in this learning communication skills and basically how to respond to each other in a positive way and not according to our own human nature and self-centeredness. And mentoring is all about communicating.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you guys are improving that in your marriage, even at this point.
We don't yell at each other quite as
much. Oh, that's good. We're thankful for that, too. So, each mentoring session with each couple starts actually by the mentors giving them an inventory. It's about 160, 170 statements to see where the couple has areas of agreement and disagreement. And that really points out a lot of key issues right up front for the mentor couple to be able to help. So, Phil, how does the use of the inventory help you to prepare couples for marriage?
Well, the point, it's basically, I understand it's a snapshot of where that couple's relationship is at the time of taking the inventory on that date and that time. It points out areas of agreement and disagreement between the couple, and these usually are the ones that are not addressed during courtship and dating and all the romance that goes along with it. But usually they're the ones that are associated with kind of the practical side of living in marriage, and are the hidden issues that a lot of times, and we're surprised about this, that one or both parties doesn't want to bring up at that particular point in time. And they usually include extended family issues, parenting, and a lot of times spiritual issues.
Okay.
Barbara, in my case, I was not a Christian at the time we started dating, and I had to come kind of to grips with that on my own, separate from her, as I came to the Lord.
So the inventory gives you a snapshot of that right off the bat,
right?
They have to answer the questions, and the questions tell where they stand in these areas that maybe they haven't talked about.
Right.
Okay, Barb, do you find there are certain important areas that couples have obviously never discussed?
Yes, we find that, but it's hard to put a finger on any particular one because each couple is different.
Okay.
And they come into the mentoring with their own dynamic and individual issues that haven't been discussed. And I can't tell you one particular one because each couple is different. And the result is usually surprising to us and to them.
Right. And I think a lot, in our experience of mentoring, I think of budgeting. Very few couples sit down and actually see what their after-wedding finances are going to look like on a long-term basis and that kind of thing, and also a communication issue as well. You have a number of exercises that you can teach to the couples. Phil, what exercises that you teach are most benefit do you think to couples?
Well, I think the first one you've already mentioned is the budgeting issue. Money is one of the big issues in any marriage, and you have to identify who's the spender and who's the saver, and work that out, and actually just crunch numbers to say, well, I can't do this, I can do that, but I can't do this. I've been talking to Barbara for 50 years about the convertible that I want, but I haven't got it yet. So.
And ideally, couples would determine that up front.
Yeah.
When are we going to get the convertible?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And the second one is the issue of fighting fair. And I think that's very important because you're going to have disagreements. That goes along with the territory. But I think the idea of being able to do it and not hurt each other.
Right. And you can teach couples how to do that.
And not make scars that are going to last for long periods of time.
That's great. Okay, Barb, finally, when does the mentoring end?
Ideally, it should never end. It's been recommended that we contact couples yearly, but we live in a metropolitan area, and we find that couples leave the area. They don't leave addresses, phone numbers. If the couple is from our church, we do see them and check and see how they're doing on a regular basis. But it has been difficult in this area to keep in contact with all couples. Some couples we've never seen again because they've completely left.
But the idea is that you try to maintain that contact once in a while to see if there's any things that have bubbled up since you last talked with them.
Right.
All right? I want to thank Bill and Barb for being here today and for sharing their testimony about the mentoring process. Hi, today we've got Betsy and Matt with us today, and they've been mentored, gone through the mentoring process. They've been married, what, a little over a year?
Yep.
Happily married.
Yes.
All right, that's what we're looking for. And we're going to just ask them some questions today about the mentoring process to give you some idea of what's involved. And I'm going to start with Betsy and say, Betsy, are there things that you learned in the mentoring process that will help you have a lifelong marriage?
Yeah, we really appreciated the mentoring process because we learned a lot about communication from our mentors. We learned that it's like the foundation of your, well, besides God, it's the foundation of your marriage. And that really communicating about everything and starting early on before you're even married, talking about your insecurities and things, areas where you want to grow, problems you're having, feelings that you maybe don't express to other people, but that you need to express to your future spouse and now to your spouse. So that's really, the mentoring process kind of cemented that in our relationship of starting early, having an open communication.
Well, that's great. And part of the mentoring process is taking an inventory, 170 or 80 statements, and you have to see whether you agree or disagree with what the statement said. Were you surprised with anything that you encountered?
Yeah, there actually were a few things that surprised us. Betsy and I actually dated for 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
So when we got to the mentoring process, we actually kind of thought, we've talked and discussed everything.
We thought we had it down.
Yeah, we thought we had it down, but as we actually started going through the process, we realized we'd never actually really discussed our roles as husband and wife, what we wanted to be doing, what roles we each wanted to take on. And so as we went through the inventory, we were actually very different on our responses in that area, which was very interesting. So it was great for us to actually go through the process and actually talk about those roles, because that was something that we just, for some reason, we just had never really talked about or thought about.
And you guys had dated for 3 years. Can you imagine if you dated for 6 months and we're going to get married?
Exactly.
There's probably a lot more things that you haven't even talked about. Yeah. And that's one of the benefits of the mentoring process. Is the inventory tries to cover everything, including a number of topics that you may not have even talked about. So that's very good. Also part of the mentoring process is you were given a number of exercises to do. And which ones kind of stuck out for you as meaningful?
I think one of the things that really stuck out for us both was we actually had to write a love letter to each other. I think, as Betsy said, communications is so important to a relationship, and I think being able to communicate that in words, especially in the new age when we're talking on cell phones, we don't really have written words to each other anymore. So I think having to write a love letter to each other was really special to us, just to be able to write that down, put down in words our exact feelings for one another.
Well, great. And Betsy, when I asked you, the mentor couple, Phil and Barb, did they share things in their marriage and their relationship that helped you guys?
Yeah, it was actually a special relationship because I've known the Weist since I was in elementary school. They were my Sunday school teachers.
Oh, okay.
So it was neat to be able to come full circle and like 15 years later to sit down with them and get their advice and wisdom on the topic of marriage. So they really shared a lot because both of them have been teachers in their lives, and I'm a teacher, so they talked a lot about the balance of work and family and just setting the stage of that for our marriage. And also they've lived overseas, which is something we'd like to do, so they really were able to connect with us in different levels of what we would like to do, but also giving us advice and wisdom and how to make that happen and show us that our relationship and our marriage needs to be a priority, and it needs to come before our work and before all the extra things that we're doing.
So I probably know the answer to this already, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Would you recommend the mentoring process to other couples?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend to any engaged couple the mentoring process. I think it's important to talk through the different topics they have you talk through, to do the exercises, and to set the foundation of your marriage on God, and to really start before you're married with the focus of we're going to have conflict, but we know that we can overcome conflict. We know that we're going to have issues in the future, but we know that through God and through relationships with other people, through mentor couples and things like that, we have an example of people that have overcome those kinds of things. And I think too that it covers different topics that you maybe don't necessarily think about when you're excited about getting married, and it helps you go through things that that are really important, hard issues, or just things that maybe you don't want to talk about, but that you need to talk about so that you are on the same page and that everybody's kind of in agreement about how your marriage is going to go.
I'd probably also say I was actually the 9th of my friends to get married. So I was sort of one of the last guys to get married, and as we were going through the process, just talking to my different friends to see what they went through, this was a lot more in-depth and a lot more sort of hands-on, really getting into things than I know many of my other Christian friends had ever gone through. So we definitely appreciate it, definitely recommend it.
Well, it certainly sounds as though it's going to greatly benefit your marriage, and we certainly hope that it benefits the marriages of other couples that may be watching the video today.
That's right. And we're recommending it to all of our friends already. So.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Yeah.